What's up, everybody? This is Chris with New to the Game podcast here with Ben Schneider.
What's up?
Tonight, what's up, man? Tonight, we're going to be talking about how to determine your service or your offer, or there's a couple different names for it. Determining your offer and what you're actually going to sell. A little bit different than determining
Chris
your
says
service.
tonight as if it's not 1 p.m. where he currently is.
All right, I don't know.
Right.
That's
it's
fair.
actually what? It's noon there, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah, it's like 12:45 here. I don't know why I said night. That's kind of random. Today we're going to be talking about picking your service. So here at New to the Game, we're big about helping you start a new business. We want to get younger people into the trades and into business ownership and help them navigate that. And we've been talking about marketing. We've been talking about sales. We've been talking about KPIs and getting kind of nerdy. And we realized that we should definitely do an episode on just picking what you're going to do in the first place. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about what your background looks like and how that influences what you should do. We're going to talk about whether it's something you're actually good at or not. We're going to talk about whether you enjoy the service that you're going to offer. And then we're going to talk about demand, competition, things like that, get a little bit more detailed. And then also at the end, we're going to give you a little snippet about how to kind of talk about what your vision for the future looks like of your company too. So to start off with, is something really simple. So if you are a 18-year-old high school graduate, you're going to have a little bit different perspective on this than somebody who's 25 and been working for somebody else. So a lot of people that own construction companies or trade companies or home service companies started as an employee. So maybe you're listening to this and you are currently a $20 an hour employee for a painting company and you're getting pretty good at painting and you're starting to have that thought of, man, I wonder how much more I could make if I started my own painting company. So there's a little bit to be said about that. If your background is in a specific trade or a specific skill, you're going to naturally tend towards thinking about starting a business in that area. If you're a carpenter apprentice or a journeyman, or if you're an electrician, or if you're an HVAC guy, or if you're a plumber, any of those things are a pretty specific niche skill set. There are not a lot of plumbers out there, as much as you might think there are. But if you're talking about a low skill but high volume work item, is totally different. Like, let's say you want to wash windows or clean roofs or clean gutters like my company does. I can train a new person to do the job that my employees do in, I don't know, 2 to 3 months, most time on average, and get pretty darn good at it in 6 months to a year. So you really could start a home service business that does exterior cleaning like I do with little to no experience. But you have to learn the ropes, and working for somebody else for a year or two is definitely a better plan. But if you're doing something like electrical, you can't really start an electrical company until you are a journeyman electrician, at least in my state. So you're going to have to look and think about what you are doing now and what you want to do in the future. The second thing we were going to talk about is whether you're good at it or not. So even if you currently right now are working at a painting company and you're pretty terrible at painting, it might be something to consider if you want to start a painting company. Because if you're not really good at the service that you want to offer, maybe you find out through the grapevine that there are no good painting companies in your town. And the only painting company in town, they kind of suck. So you're like, man, I should start a painting company. But if you also suck at painting, it's going to be hard for you to start a painting company to beat the other company. Whereas if you're really good at something, but you don't have a lot of experience doing it, that might be a better choice. If you're really comfortable and confident up on ladders and at height, and you think that cleaning gutters, cleaning roofs, cleaning windows would be something that you enjoy, then that's a great plan. So at the end of the day, those two things are kind of related. You want to look at your background, you want to look at your experience, you want to look at what you're currently doing now. And if those things are something that you're good at and that you know that you could do and provide a good service, that's something to really consider. And if you don't know whether you're good or bad at something, you might want to ask somebody and compare notes with somebody else. If you think that you're really good at painting, but your boss says that you're a terrible painter, your opinion might be less valid than theirs if they're a 20-year painting company owner that says that you're not very good at painting. So that's something to consider too. Ben, you're going to talk about a couple more things, and I'll transfer it over to you. But one last note on that is I want to make sure that I'm clear about this too. Just because you're doing something now and you're experienced at it doesn't mean that's what you have to do. And Ben's going to talk about that, but I definitely want to make it clear that I'm not saying that if you're currently at a painting company that you have to start a painting company. It's just something you want to consider because you're already doing it and you already have experience and you already have knowledge about it.
Yeah. And it's helpful to be able to think about it that way, because I mean, obviously with a lot of things, like you can get good at something. And Chris and I can both attest to this. Like, I mean, yeah, I know a lot about sod, but am I out there like every day now, like still going out there and laying the grass? Not necessarily. So like also kind of right alongside, are you good at it, is like, one of the things I highlighted was like, do you know the difference between good and bad? Like, do you know what the difference between a good installation and a bad installation is, or a good cleaning job and a bad cleaning job? Do you know what it looks like when you mow a yard and it looks really good, and when you mow a yard and it looks pretty bad? That's like one part of it too, is just the knowledge of the overall thing. But we one of the important things we highlighted is, do you enjoy it? And this subject's like, you can go many different ways with this, because for me personally, I really enjoy business. Like, business is the thing that I love. But I have gotten to a point now where I still really enjoy grass. Like, my wife knows how to identify all the different grass types in our area, because I point them out to her, and I'm a nerd in that way. So like, yeah, enjoying something is really important, especially if you're one of those people that's kind of more in the realm of like, maybe you want to be a sole operation. Maybe you don't necessarily want to scale a large company or become like a businessman. Maybe you just want to be a person that like can go out there and be able to build those patios, or be an irrigation guy, or all my things are outdoor service oriented, or like Chris said, be the painter or be the carpentry guy. Like, if you love those things, then absolutely. If you want to be a sole operation, I mean, I cannot tell you how many guys that I know, literally, like, by brand, they would probably fall into that bucket of like chucking a truck, but literally they go out there, they do all the jobs by themselves, and they make $200K plus a year. Yep. And they do probably $400K in revenue, and that's it. And like, but they're still making crazy good money because they enjoy it and they love it. The other point here too is the demand competition in your area. This one you can get very, very hamstrung by, because you might go in there and you might say, like, for example, let's just say you're a roofing company. I don't think there's anywhere you can go where there's not demand and competition in your area. Roofing is one of the most competitive industries that you can be inside of. Landscaping is also kind of sort of another very competitive one. But there's competition is everywhere. Like in my area, what Chris does, like the power washing, roof cleaning process of things, like I see 20 different trucks driving down the street every single day of guys with a power washing setup. So I don't want you to feel like you're totally hamstrung by the competition side of it so much, but it is helpful every now and then to be able to look at it and say, is the competition like, can I already see myself pretty easily being able to just dominate the competition, because maybe they're the mom and pop shop that's been in business for 40 plus years and they don't have any systems or smooth processes in place, and all you have to do is implement a few like basic fundamental business practices, and like you could actually blow them out of the water. Then that might actually be worth exploring and starting to do a little bit more of an in-depth analysis on. And again, I wouldn't allow that to be the number one deciding factor on whether that is your service or not, but I would definitely recommend whatever service you do, it is extremely wise to do a competitive audit. Like, have your mom and dad, I don't know, reach out to the 15 top companies in that space and get a quote for whatever that service is, and just like start running some quotes and getting some information and kind of pulling in like little bits of data here and there. And you can do a little bit of a competitive analysis, and that's a very helpful thing to go about this. The other thing that's really key is demand. Now, I'm a sod installation provider. If I go up north where like everyone just has grass and everyone hydro seeds or seeds their lawn, like I'm going to go out of business very rapidly. If I am a snow removal guy and I operate a business in Florida, I'm not saying Florida, I know there's like guys that do snow removal and they have contracts and all that sort of stuff. Like, so I'm going to get shot down for that. But like, guys, you're not going to start a company in snow removal and make massive amounts of money in Florida. And like, so you need to think about those types of things, because it's a really valuable piece. And there are types of services that just don't really make a ton of sense based upon the actual area that you're inside of. So think about that. Like, actually do a little bit of a review of your area and think, is this service something that's actually going to be of high demand, or is this service going to be something that I mean, like, again, there are some businesses you could still make some decent money. And that's sort of like bridging the gap into your vision. Like, what do you
Mm-hmm.
want your company to ultimately look like? Where do you actually want to go with all of this stuff? Because that's going to be a huge part of what actually helps you determine the above 4 questions. Because if your vision is to have a super low key thing that makes you an extra 50 grand a year as a side hustle and you work 10 hours a week doing it, then like, yeah, you might actually have a lot more options available to you than some might say. But at the alternative, if you're looking to build a multi-million-dollar company with a lot of people inside of it and take care of a lot of people and support your family and be able to like invest heavily towards your retirement and legacy and all of that type of stuff, it's very important to start consider some of the long-term implications of this.
Yeah, I definitely I want to add, Ben, like I hear a lot in the home service like coaching content space, like all the people that talk with us online, you'll hear this buzzword a lot of like, are you self-employed or do you have a business? And I hear people talking about it a lot because there's guys that will say that if you're the one in the field doing the work every day and you're working in the business, not on the business, what you really have is a job that you pay for. Like you're essentially paying yourself to be an employee. You are still working for clients and yourself, but you don't have a business. A business is when you can take a 2-week vacation and things still keep happening and you keep making money when you're gone. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like we're going to talk about this when we talk more about vision, but I think that what a lot of people fail to realize is that there are a lot of people that love having a job and don't want an empire. Like I use the word business because like you hear that buzzword of like, oh, you're self-employed, you don't have a business. But I think the reality of it is like I know a guy just like what you were talking about. He's a roofer. He and his 2 kids do about $500K a year, but they pocket 200 to 300 of that. And they spend 4 or 5 months out of the year during the non-peak season fishing and hunting and working on building their cabin over on the east side of the state, and they love it. They have no
Yep.
desire to hire 20 people and be running jobs in the off season. They just make an absolutely crap load of money in the peak season, and then they clock out for 3 to 5 months. And if
Yeah.
that's what you
And
want, and that's your vision for your life, that's the way to do it.
yeah, and that's ultimately like the next episode that we're going to be doing, or a future episode, is going to be on vision. And that's exactly what we really want to be able to talk about here, because if you're not doing what you want to do, is it something that you actually want to do? Which seems like a stupid question to ask, but like, yeah, obviously, yeah, you don't want to find yourself in a position where you're just doing something that you don't want to do because someone else told you that that's what you're supposed to do, and like all these different things, and you're just like a million things swirling around your head. Of course, there's the natural process. Like, you're not just going to be a business owner overnight. You're not just going to have a large corporation overnight. Like, there's the grind, and you have to be willing to understand what it takes to be able to get to that place that you want. But if you have no idea what that mark is, then you're never actually going to be able to know whether or not you missed the mark. And it's a really hard state to be in. So guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Again, this is going to be one that we'll follow up with when we talk a little bit more about vision, but we really wanted you to get some just some of the fundamental questions you should actually really start to consider if you are going to be wanting to start a new company, or maybe if you're already in a company, but maybe you're trying to determine like, oh, do I want to niche down or something like that, and figure out like what is the most sensible service to kind of delve into or rebrand towards perhaps. These questions are so critical, and they're just a lot of people will overlook them because, again, we're in that hustle and grind culture that says, oh, just figure it out and just do it. Yeah, sort of, but like also it's not a bad thing to actually do some due diligence and take a look at some of this stuff and ask some of these important questions.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and if you want to be around a bunch of other guys that are trying to figure out the same thing and be part of a community of guys that are trying to start businesses or have businesses and are trying to grow, come find us on School. We have a free group on School, SKOOL. It'll be linked in the show notes. And that's where, if you have more questions about this and you want to stay in touch with us or jump on one of our live calls, that's where you can find us. We're also on Apple, Spotify, every podcast platform known to man, and YouTube. So if you like what we're doing, subscribe, leave a review, come talk to us. But most of all, we'd love to come hang out with you in our School group. We do live Zoom calls. We do content and courses. We post our podcast episodes and videos there. But we also have a pretty sweet group of folks that are just getting started, and that community is growing, and we'd love to have you be a part of it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. And as always, I don't know what to say to that last part, but as always, we'll see you around.
I was going to say, I thought you had a catchphrase. We haven't figured that out yet.
I was going to try to rapid fire it, but I realized we don't actually have a catchphrase yet.
Well, when we get a catchphrase, guys, we'll let you know. But until then, tune in for the next episode or come find us on school. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys later.